Hello everybody, welcome to another Mover Mailbag. I am Mover C.W. Lemoine, author of the Spectre series and the Alex Shepard series. If you haven't picked up Finny Flight, please do. It helps support the channel. Also, t-shirts and posters are now available through the Teespring store. Hope you're having a great week. Hope you enjoyed the night vision goggle episode. Today's Mover Mailbag got a couple questions, so let's get to it. First off, this comes from 420 blazing, cops can't catch me. So let's talk about social media and you. Actually, this question was actually from a year ago. I posted it on my Instagram and Facebook page as kind of a lesson of what not to do. Let's talk about social media. So 2019 is a lot different than when I applied back in 2003. A social media footprint can actually make or break you, and more break than make. In the world of sharing everything and everything being on Instagram and Facebook and even YouTube, there is a high probability of you ruining your chances of becoming a fighter pilot just by having a username like 420 blazing, cops can't catch me. Now, the ethics or morality or legality of smoking weed aside, it's not going to do well on a security clearance or a security background investigation. And having that in your username, as well as bragging about the cops not being able to catch you, are not going to go well for you. So what I recommend, and this is going to be one of those do as I say, not as I do, because I'm going to get to that in a second, but I recommend for social media purposes that you, one, screen your username. I would not have anything that's going to come back and haunt you when somebody looks for it, because everything can be searched, everything will be found. And if a unit that is trying to hire you finds that you have a username like 420 blazing, cops can't catch me, or something with some other illegal activities in the name, your chances have just gone to zero, because no one wants somebody that's bragging about breaking the law, regardless of how big or small it is. Second, on the more embarrassing side, I see people with usernames like future fighter pilot, F-15 fighter pilot, F-22 fighter pilot. I think it's awesome that you've got goals, but if you're an ROTC and going to go active duty, that's the wrong username to have, because what happens when you go C-17s or C-130s? Those are great missions, and they are they're the tip of the spear. You're doing a lot of good work in the defense of our nation's interests. However, you don't want to be that guy. So my recommendation is get something plain, first, middle, initial, whatever, something that no one can find, something that's very benign, and something that doesn't turn off future employers, that when you go to interview at your fighter unit and it's an F-16 unit and your email, for example, is F-15 lover or something stupid like that, that they go, yeah, this guy is a little too, no, we don't want him. Guy or girl. Remember, I say guy in the generic term. So that's step one on usernames. Just get something. You don't have to have what you want to be when you grow up in your username. It's just silly. It's a little arrogant, and I appreciate that. There's a little bit of arrogance in being a fighter pilot, but just what happens when if something medical, the unit closes or something. You don't want to be the future fighter pilot flying C-17s, because they will mercilessly mock you, and they're going to have a bad impression. First impressions are everything. Fear, sarcasm, and ridicule are the teaching languages of being a pilot. So just get used to it. Okay, second, your social media footprint. And this is where I get to the do as I say, not as I do, because obviously I've got a YouTube channel with 46,000 subscribers and an Instagram with 2,000 and all that stuff. But that's different, and I'll explain why in a second. I'll explain why it even affected me negatively. So you are an aspiring fighter pilot or an aspiring military pilot or airline pilot or whatever. My recommendation, hide everything public. Don't just go to your privacy settings and make sure no one can find it. Because just like your username can come back to haunt you, things that you post on social media can come back to haunt you too. You've got a picture of you partying and somebody in the background is doing something illegal. You're drinking heavily. It might not be illegal, but it looks like you have bad judgment. There's no reason to risk it. There's no reason to make it public. Just get rid of it. hide it, make it private, make sure only your friends can see it, and that'll prevent a lot of headaches, especially when future employers and people doing background investigations for security clearances, because in order to fly that F-22 you like so much, you're going to have to go through a significant background investigation. And if you've got all this stuff out in social media that looks like you've got a bad character, it will come into question, and it may even prevent you from getting it. The other thing about that too, beyond just your social media footprint and what you're sharing with the world, if you're going to be a military fighter pilot, you are going to deploy, and there's a security aspect to that, because there's operational security where you could be giving away troop movements and stuff. You're going to get all kinds of training on that. But there's also what happens if you get captured, and when you go to survival training, they're going to look for that stuff, and if they can find it, they're going to use it against you and show you that it's something that the enemy can use against you themselves if you get captured. So while you're in the pipeline, in the process, and actually deployable, I would just get rid of it altogether. Now, how has that affected me, and why is it do as I say, not as I do? Because you might be thinking, well, look at you, you're a fighter pilot, and look what you have. I didn't have this when I was in the pipeline, and it affected me. When I first wrote my first book, I wrote it under cwlemoine, which is what this author vlog is about, because I wanted to at least have some degree of separation. And the rumors about the book from a previous squadron kind of exploded, to the point that people thought it was an autobiography. People thought that I was writing a tell-all about my previous squadron, which is not true. There's one story that actually happened about the guy falling in the river, and it was just a funny anecdotal based on a true story part in Spectre Rising. The whole Spectre Rising book is fiction. It has, there's no chance that any of that's real. It's not based on anybody. It's just fiction. But it affected me because people would tell others that I had written a tell-all book. And when I went to apply to another unit, they were like, you're the guy who wrote the books. And the first time I tried it, it wasn't a big factor. But as the time grew on, I went to apply at an A-10 unit at Moody, and I'll never forget sitting there with the squadron commander and the group commander, and it became a hostile interview because they said that I was making money off the backs of my bros by writing a story about them, which was not true. But again, I was told that perception is reality. And so that prevented me ultimately from getting that job. It didn't go very well, and I took as much ownership as I could, but at the end of the day, I had made the choice to write the book and put myself out there, and it prevented me from, probably my last attempt at flying the A-10. And now in my career, I know that this vlog will probably prevent me from ever applying in any other fighter squadron again, because nobody's going to want the exposure, the risk, like we talked about in that last video. When I posted the T-38 flyby video, even though under the rules we believed that it was allowed, still brought a little bit of negative attention, and units just don't want that. They don't want that visibility. They don't want the stuff being on YouTube and all that stuff. So I accept that at this point in my career, that what I'm doing is probably going to prevent me from doing anything else, which is fine. This vlog has gone from it started just about cars and books to turned into hopefully having helped quite a few people, and I'm very proud of that fact, and I'm very proud of the fact that it's become what it's become, and I've been able to do things like this and help the next generation and inspire future fighter pilots. But that said, I understand the consequences, and the consequences of that are probably no one's ever going to hire me again, which is fine. I've got a real job, and I've gotten a lot of good opportunities that have come from this. And my goal as an author is to build the brand and to keep writing books, keep helping people, and I'm enjoying where I'm at right now. So as long as the gig I'm in sticks around, it's not a problem. But for someone who's aspiring or someone who's in the pipeline, I just wouldn't do it, because it will affect you negatively. It's just the way things are. You will close more doors than you open by having a big social media presence and by posting a lot of public stuff. It's just and people take things the wrong way, just like the last mailbag I had, where I think it was Paula said that I was against women because I said guys. Stuff like that will come out, and it goes back to what he said. Perception is reality. It doesn't really matter what the truth is. It's what the perception is, and there's no overcoming that. So that's my recommendation. I don't mean to single out Mr. 420 blazing cops can't catch me, but it is a teachable moment because number one, your social media profile, just make it private. Make sure your username is something that is very vanilla, and make sure that if somebody clicks on your profile, they can't find anything. That's the safest way to do it, because if somebody sees something, that could be the difference between you going and getting hired at the F-35s in Vermont and you never getting the opportunity at all because somebody finds something. So anyway, enough on that. Foot stomped it enough. Let's move on to the next question. All right, next question. This comes from Dylan. Dylan says, Mr. Lemoine, I've always been interested in the military and have had an interest in becoming a fighter pilot for a while now, but by the time I need to figure out what I want to do in college, rising sophomore taking aerospace engineering, the thought of the military just got put in the back of my mind. I'm still going back and forth on whether or not to join or just stick with an aerospace job. My plan is to graduate in a few years and see where my mind is at. I'm set on sticking with college, with the college I'm currently at, so the Air Force Academy is out of the question at this point. My school doesn't offer ROTC with the Air Force, unfortunately. So that would probably be a big hassle trying to find a college near me that does offer it. I was just wondering if you would be able to give me your opinion and what you think my best option of becoming a fighter pilot and getting a pilot's light would be in my current situation. I'm thinking either the Air National Guard or joining the Air Force after I get my degree. Going through OTS would be my best option. So I'm hoping to get my PPL next summer as well, which I'm hoping will make me more competitive. I'm a little confused on OTS, so obviously you need to go to OTS when you apply for an Air National Guard unit, but that would be after you get accepted for a pilot slot with whatever unit flies after taking the AFOQT and TBAS. Then if you go active duty Air Force, you'd first be going to OTS before you know if you got a slot. So wouldn't it be a more secure option to join the A&G in that case? Last question, if you apply for a pilot slot in the A&G, don't get one, you don't have a commitment like you would with the active duty Air Force, you don't get one, correct? Sorry for the long paragraph. Thanks, Dylan. Okay, one thing at a time. Yeah, if you are just going to go straight up, you get your degree, your only option at that point is OTS after the fact. OTS is what you go to after you've already got a pilot slot. It is what gets you your commission and makes you a second lieutenant. Everything is already determined before you get to OTS. So for active duty, you already know you're going to be a pilot. You've already got a pilot slot to go to OTS. For the Guard, same thing. For the Reserve, same thing. So you're already at that point once you get to OTS. So there's no chance of you going to OTS and then finding out you're not going to get a pilot slot, because that's just, you already know by that point. So that's wrong. I don't know where you got that information that OTS was, you had to do that first on the active duty side, but it's exactly the same for Reserve, Guard, or active duty. So as far as what's different from the Air National Guard, the less secure part is that the Guard, you know where you're going to fly and what you're going to fly before you even step out of the door. So active duty, you've got a pilot slot, but you just don't know what you're going to fly. It depends on how you do in pilot training. Guard, you still have to make the grades. So less secure, I don't know. If you were going to make fighter grades anyway, I mean, yes, you'll get a fighter in the active duty. Yes, you'll get a fighter in the Guard. So I don't know. And then if you apply for a pilot slot in the Guard and don't get one, no, there's no commitment. I mean, if you apply and they say thanks but no thanks, just move on to the next one. You don't have a commitment until you get through the process. You know, you get through OTS and then pilot training. This is from Kate. Kate says, I've been watching a lot of your videos recently. They are great. I find the information you give out really interesting, very helpful. Thanks, Kate. I have a couple questions if you can answer. Did you work with the techs who do maintenance and repairs on the fighters? Do you think this would be a worthwhile job as a backup or alternative for someone who doesn't make it as a pilot? Thanks, Katie. Or Kate. Yes, I did interact with maintenance quite often. We interact with them every day, you know, going out to the airplane, going to maintenance control. If you're in the Navy, that's where all the maintainers, you sign out the jet and the books and stuff. On the Air Force side, maintenance debrief, stuff like that. And then when you walk out to the airplane, you talk to the crew chief and stuff. Do you work on airplanes? Not necessarily. In the Navy, you get a lot more interaction with them. Is it a good backup or alternative? Yeah, if you're interested in that, absolutely. You know, it's a good job. There's civilian opportunities with the airlines and private practice and stuff like that. I personally, while I think it's a great idea to have a backup, I'd be just going for a pilot right now and just full steam ahead. Don't even worry about what your backup is. Exhaust all your options and make them tell you no on the pilot slot, and then or the pilot side, and then at that point think of stuff. For the backup, my recommendation is just whatever you're interested in. If you like business, do business. If you like maintenance, do maintenance. If you like law enforcement, do law enforcement. Find something as a backup that you would enjoy doing throughout your career. That's really what it boils down to. Hello, my name is Brandon, and I'm a big fan of your channel and all the helpful info you give me. Anyways, here's the background. I'm 20, attending for a business degree and pursuing my PPL. My dream is to fly fighters. Here are my questions. I know the Air National Guard is the best gig according to fighter guys I talked to, but how selective are Guard units in hiring for pilots compared to the competitiveness to an Air Force pilot slot? I feel like the chances are slimmer for ANG because of the number of positions. So I'll stop right there. I actually asked a buddy of mine who does hiring for a fighter squadron what the biggest thing he wanted me to tell people, and that is number one, it is competitive. There are hundreds of people applying. There is no shortage of applicants for these positions. There's a shortage. People talk about the pilot shortage, and the shortage is on retention and people 04 and above sticking around after 10, 12 years. But on the applicant side, there is no shortage whatsoever. So that's why I say throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. Just keep applying, because there are going to be hundreds of applicants for one or two slots each time, and you may have been successful your entire life and never been rejected, but just keep at it. Number two, is it possible to get stuck with drones? No. That's not a thing anymore. There's a totally drone pipeline. So don't worry about that. Are you familiar with guaranteed pilot slots the Navy and Marines offer guys who want to make sure they're going to be a pilot before committing to serve? It's really attractive for me, except I prefer not to fly helos. Well, guess what? The Air Force flies helos too, so that's an option. People have to get over this what's in it for me mentality. You have to be walking into it going, I'm here to serve my country, and the best way I want to serve my country is to be a fighter pilot, because that's what I think I would be able to best benefit my country for. But at the end of the day, it's going to be needs of the Air Force, needs of the Navy, and the ultimate good, which is supporting and defending the Constitution of the United States. So yes, there's a guaranteed pilot slot for all of them, but there's no guarantees, ever. Let's see. I plan to have great grades in PPL by the time I graduate college. What would you do to maximize my chances? Have great grades and volunteer, great grades, good scores. That's really all you can do. All right, and finally, this is not necessarily. Today's just going to be tough love mover day. This is not necessarily a question, but it's based on I'm getting a lot of emails, which is awesome, but I can't answer them all just based on time and all the other stuff I'm going on. But I'm getting a lot of questions lately, asking the same thing, the exact same thing. And even a commenter on the last vlog pointed this out, that I've been answering the same thing over and over and over. There's a difference between make them tell you no and make them tell you everything. And by that I mean the way to become a fighter pilot is through persistence and hard work. However, you also have to have some level of initiative and some level of being a self-starter. Being a fighter pilot is all about knowing the rules, doing the research, and taking charge. And you cannot expect, I know, this is, now I'm going to sound old, but it's a 2019 thing, right? Where you have all the infinite amount of information at your fingertips, but everybody's too lazy to go get it, so they ask. It's good to ask, but do your research. If it's a simple question, there is no reason to be asking people. You should know. Honestly, you should have the initiative, the drive, and the willpower to go find the easy answers, because that's part of it. That's just part of the, it shows your dedication, it shows your commitment, it shows that you're a self-starter that can do this stuff. Because when we're looking up bombing information, we're looking up threats, you can't expect a new lieutenant showing up at a squadron that knows nothing and asks everything is not going to be very highly respected. Remember, we talked about being humble, credible, and approachable from the beginning, and part of that credibility is knowing your stuff. And if you show up to a squadron and you refuse to go look up stuff on your own, and you just insist on asking, and it's easy questions that you should probably have already looked up on your own, no one's going to respect that. Nip that in the bud now. Don't ask the easy questions that you can Google, that you can go. I've got the links in the description. FlyingSquadron.com, BogeyDope.com, BaseOps.net, which is Flying Squadron, AirWarriors.com. You are not the first person to blaze this path, regardless of how much it seems like that. There are a lot of people that have done this before, and you can read and find out the information on easy stuff. Easy stuff like, well, what's OTS? Well, there's a website on OTS that'll tell you how many weeks it is and what the curriculum is right now. What's pilot training? What what the standards are for entry. The questions that are the easy ones should not be the ones you ask. It should be the more difficult questions that you absolutely have exhausted every option, or you just want advice, or you just want a little bit of more motivation or something. Because again, it's all about showing that you have the ability and the drive to do this job. So that'll just help you out long run. Just get. And I'm not trying to say that I don't want to help and I don't want to answer, because I absolutely love helping, and I hope I'm helping inspire people to do the right thing and do this job, because I think it's the coolest job in the world. I'm just saying, beyond just make them tell you no, do your homework, put the effort in, put the energy into it, and you'll see a lot of good results. So that's it for today's Mover Mailbag. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We got a lot of good stuff coming up on the channel, and I hope you guys will keep watching it. Thanks for all that have supported the books and the t-shirts, and thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.